so the next mission we're working on is Uproot. Again, I see neutrals and a war target in the system. There's actually a Malediction who just jumped through gate previously. I think it was someone who was chasing me earlier. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to warp to it, stop in space, and select, and then warp to it manually. The reason I picked 20 is because I feel comfortable at that range that someone's not going to land back on me. If you want to go further, that's safer. If you want to go straight to the gate and then jump in automatically, there is like right now at this point, if you jump gate instantly when you're landing and warping to it, they cannot point you, even if you're just unable to lock them because they're stuck in warp even though they're not warping. So there is that bonus, but the fact that you can't cloak when you're inside now makes it so that they're like, oh hey, I can't lock this person, let me jump in anyway, and then they just catch you afterwards. So the new setup, you do need to be more careful when you're farming. Again, nothing was showing up on D-scan, didn't look like anything was coming to me, so I'm just going to jump in. This is one of the keys of when you want to pay the most attention to your D-scan, because this is when you're vulnerable. So this mission, I'm going to test something else, because there used to be a glitch where you could just burn straight up and the NPCs wouldn't lock you. So I'm going to test that now, because this one, what I'd normally recommend is cloak instantly, but because of the new setup, I need to be outside 30 kilometers of this point. You'll be able to tell when you're outside that bubble range because it will start saying 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, etc. Sorry, 1,000 meters, 2,000 meters, and then 10 kilometers, etc. So it does look like those NPCs still do not lock you as long as you're going directionally, like perpendicular to the angle you came in with. So I'm just going straight up because I like the over-the-top orbit personally. Still nothing on D-scan, so I'm pretty safe. This path also was convenient because the sun is sort of up from where I am, so if I needed to bail, then I could just warp out to that. I actually picked the worst direction because Uproot was up from where I started, but now that I'm outside of that beacon range, I can now cloak again. So now what I'm going to do is to slow boat into the position I need to be to actually hit this. The target that you're aiming for is going to be the Starbase main reactor. If you have any trouble seeing it inside the bubble, one of the easiest things to do is click on the POS, look at it, and then this ugly looking thing is what you want. And there you go. Now it's in your selector and you can pick it from there. The reason I say to get into position cloaked is because it does take such a long time to get into position. If you start going straight for it, a lot of the times the NPC damage plus these batteries do apply a lot of damage to you. And these batteries are missile batteries, so they apply their damage no matter what. You also want to be careful that you don't go back into the beacon, because then that would have just wasted all the time and effort you put in. For a future note, I would normally recommend going down, because up made it take longer because the uproot beacon was in the direction that I was trying to pull range from. I should have went straight down. That probably would have cut my time in half for how far down I would have had to go. Okay, so I'm almost in range. Another thing I was mentioning in a previous one was, even though the max flight range is 58 kilometers, normally the actual flight range due to the torpedo's travel path ends up being like 56 or less. So generally want to get yourself a little bit inside. That also allows you, when you're setting your manual flight path, if you mess up a little bit, go too far or anything, you don't stop applying damage. I had that happen in an earlier mission and I ended up having to run away, come back to the mission, and just killed my time efficiency. So since I have my target in the selector, nothing's on D-scan, I'm going to switch to PvP. At this point I can go ahead, uncloak, start my Afterburner, lock the target, and start aggressing it. And this one does take quite a lot of time, even with the T2 ammo. It does take at least one reload, so you use all your missiles, reload, and then start going again. It does take all that to kill this. So what you want to do is just kind of get to the back of this so that they stop applying damage. What I like to do is take this a little bit longer orbit around so that when I get to the bottom I can just start curving back up. Because you want to generally keep distance between you and these batteries, because they will, like if you're in range, they are going to hit guaranteed and do significant damage. But if you keep distance from them, the missiles actually time out and just die, so you don't get hit by them. The other thing to note, the reason why I'm using the T2 ammo, even though this thing does not look very big, if you look at the, well, you can't see it, but it's like when you look at a POS, the actual POS itself, the explosion radius for it is large, or the actual radius of the, maybe it's volume, I don't remember, but in essence whatever determines its size. It's a really big object, so explosion radius applies the full damage. So each of these volleys, if you look, it's always going to be the 5,248. It's always going to be consistent there. Even if I turn off the target painter, it's still going to be 5,248. So I turned off my target painter. Next volley, 5,248. So that's one thing to keep in mind for this mission. You don't necessarily need your target painter on. Target painters do use a lot of cap, but honestly it doesn't matter too much. I generally leave it off because of the fact that if a target comes into me, I'll use the target painter to try and help kill the person who's trying to gank me. Because, hey, why not? They're trying to gank me, why shouldn't I try and surprise them and kill them? NPCs do apply a lot of damage, and if you're target painting them, that boosts their bubble or their explosion radius of applied damage. Or not explosion radius, their radius makes it easier than hit, yada yada yada, leads to them being able to get killed. I did actually kill a Kestrel once because of that. He caught me target painting NPCs, managed to like one-shot him. Because your torpedoes will basically do no damage, because torpedoes suck for doing damage applied to small things, but NPC damage can apply very well, because there's frigates, battleships, cruisers. You also have the turrets here that can all apply damage to frigates. And always keep an eye on your distance. Generally look at your max flight range, subtract maybe 2 kilometers or so off of that, and try and just keep inside that range. You always want to be as close to your max range as you can be, because that puts you further away from the beacon, but it's not necessary. And I do have another mission in this system, so that will be my next target, so I will start aligning to that shortly once I know my last volley is going to hit. So it should take one more volley after that one lands. Maybe one more, but I think that should be enough. Yeah, that will be all. So I can stop my missiles, no sense wasting ammo. So I'm going to warp to that, and stop my ship, and launch it.